Hello and welcome to SCP Cafe. This is 2019 Week 18 Recap Show. I'm your host, Blue Soul, SCP Wiki moderator, chat operator, subreddit moderator, author, loving husband, dog petter, Cologne aficionado, Tottenham Hotspur supporter, and Patreon announcer. Boy, this is going to be a long show. I apologize in advance. We have a lot to talk about, though. Not only was it probably the single best week for SCPs that I may have ever seen, but there's a lot of stuff to do with the cafe that also needs discussing. So we'll pick things up at the beginning, which is we are closing in on a very cool number to me. We are nearly at 1,000 followers across all platforms. The number right now is 878. I'm hoping that, before the beginning of June, I'll be at that nice 1,000 number. Thank you guys all for following along. I have a lot of fun recording this. I hope you guys have as much fun listening to it. So yeah, the big news of the week, I'm launching the Patreon. As a matter of fact, it's been launched. You can check it out, patreon.com/scpcafe, or if you go to the scp.cafe website, there's a link to it at the top menu. Before I managed to get this announcement out, I already have a couple of patrons. Crashington, AIS Mallard, thank both of you sincerely. This has been, it's really humbling to have people want to support you in this way. So I'm going to, kind of go over what I'm doing with the Patreon and what you can get for your patronage. I'm going to put out there at the beginning that I am not going to paywall any podcast content. Everything that I record for SCP Cafe will be freely available for everybody. What I am going to do is release certain bonus content early to patrons. So the recap shows are not considered bonus content. Bonus content is going to be things like the deep dives, one-shot episodes, future formats that I haven't really done yet. I still plan on doing interviews. I haven't really made time or committed to doing any yet, but that is something that I've discussed. It's even in the description for the pod that interviews are a part of it. So all of that sort of stuff will be put out on a more regular schedule now, and will be released a week early to patrons. What happens is you get a private RSS link, and this link is something you can use in lieu of your current method of getting the show. It works, I know for sure, on Apple Podcasts. There's a link up on the Patreon on a list of apps that Patreon has basically gone out, tested out, and said, yes, these work great for consuming podcasts. So you'll get that. So early access is available at all tiers, which start at $1. So from $1 a month, you get the early access. You will get special patron flair in our new subreddit, our SCP Cafe, which I'm still hammering out what exactly we're going to be doing there. I have a lot of ideas. I'm going to go over those in a post on the Patreon. Additionally, you will get access to new merchandise that's going to be patron only. Nothing that already exists, just stuff I have in my head that I will put out there on the store that will require a patron email to check out with it. Additionally, everybody will have a chance to get free merchandise, either new items that I'm testing out, new shirt designs, new badge designs, new decals, whatever it might be. I will put the opportunity out there to all patrons. You won't have to do anything. I will do sort of a random draw out of the patron list, and I will send you totally free merch. At the $5 tier, you get all of the above, plus a 10% discount code usable for as long as you're a member on the SCP Cafe store. You will get access to some patron-only posts in particular polls on what bonus content should get recorded, and the ability to post questions that will be answered as part of a weekly mailbag segment. And your odds of getting free merch will go up just a little bit at each tier, but even at the $1 tier, you will get chances. At the $10 tier, the 10% discount becomes 15%. You will also have the ability to call into a voicemail number that I will set up, and you can hear your questions on the air, provided you keep it reasonably radio friendly, reasonably radio friendly. So there's that, and at the $25 tier, that discount code goes up to 20%. You'll also get a welcome kit. This will include a 6-inch decal. This is my indoor-outdoor grade vinyl, either in the SCP logo or the cafe logo, which is not yet on the store. That will be going up next week. You will also get your choice of either an SCP enamel pin or a Site-19 access card with a badge clip, and your choice of a Keter, Euclid, redacted, or data expunged decal. This is 6 inches wide by 1 inch tall in white. And additionally, I will mention any article of your choosing with a short message of your choosing between the second and third works covered in the recap show, and I will also link it in the podcast description wherever I can. At the top tier is the $50 tier. That discount code becomes 35%. The welcome kit will include all of the above from the previous welcome kit. It will include both the enamel pin and the access card, and you will also get any shirt of your choosing in whatever size you need. Additionally, as a one-time benefit, I will take any article of your choosing and make it the focus of a deep dive episode. So it doesn't necessarily have to be new content. I will gladly go back through go dig through the old skips and make a deep dive out of it. And in any of that bonus content, I will be thanking each member personally at the end of every show. So that's more or less what you get. I am going to be producing more content in general. It's time. I've talked about things I might do, and there's still plenty of opportunity to have that discussion on what sort of content people are interested in. And with the addition of making these polls available and really, having a bigger discussion on what sort of things people like, then, I'm hoping we find something that a lot of people really enjoy. So that's all on the Patreon front. It will be linked on scp.cafe. In fact, it already is. We also have a little bit of news on the store. I had announced the two new items. The Epsilon 11 Nine-Tailed Fox shirt, that is now available at $14.95. If you want to check it out, it's this cool military green with white, sort of a military-inspired stencil font and Sunny Clockworks Nine-Tailed Fox logo. That shirt is eligible for the Support the Artists program, so for every purchase, Sunny Clockwork will receive 15% of gross profits. Sunny actually got their first good news, first payout made available for Support the Artists last month with a qualifying purchase. And all purchases do support the wiki as well by 5% of all funds going to Project Foundation as soon as that fund is made available. Now, before we get into the Week 18 show, there is one more thing, a little procedural thing that's going to change to accommodate some of the new stuff I'm doing with the Patreon and my plans for getting more user input and thoughts from them on the weekly basis. Is the scope of what I consider a week is going to change. Instead of Friday to Thursday, which is what it has been, it is going to switch to Thursday to Wednesday. And what that's going to do is it'll allow me to give people a little bit of notice with regards to what skips will be covering that week. So basically, they'll have 24 hours to get an idea of anything they might want to say about it. The recording time won't change and the release time won't change. Simply a matter of what skips are considered to fall in that particular week. So yeah, that's next week. We'll technically have a smaller selection of skips to choose from. So if you are on the fence on when to release something and you want to have your work shown off on Cafe, then next between today and Wednesday might not be a bad idea. Now, on to more important matters. Like I said, this week, week 18, has been an absolutely phenomenal week for skips. While we still only had 9 in scope, we had 9 in scope last week. And my theory last week was the weather was really nice and people were, enjoying the nice weather rather than writing skips. And the weather was really nice again this week. So I don't think my theory is disproven yet. But for whatever reason, the quality this week was absolutely off the charts. There were 9 in scope. I'm going to talk about all 9. Not in depth. I'm gonna cover my 5 as normal, but I have to talk at least a little bit about each one of these because, good Lord, it was just an insane week for just top quality skips. This is the sort of thing that makes me really, really happy to do this show. So we're going to get started with SCP-4726, titled Gamer Milk by Uncle Nicolini. Now, I'm going to say that earlier in the week, when I saw this get posted with the title of Gamer Milk, I believe my response was, oh no. Spoiler alert, I was right. We have an image of a man, and I want you to take a trip back with me to 2003. I was 15 years old. I was a wee lad. I was played a lot of Counter-Strike in a clan called PXDN, and this man in this image, who I initially presumed was being milked, would have been my people. This man is wearing, it's not a fedora, it's a trilby. He's wielding the finest in Mall Ninja swords. He's wearing the finest in Hawaiian-inspired print shirts. This is my people. This is still my people. So, this is presumably our gamer. The caption reads, SCP-4726 confronting local law enforcement officers upon discovery. Oh, I should also mention he's exhaling presumably nicotine or, these days maybe vape smoke from both nostrils. In that regard, it looks pretty rad. It's got a nice little dragon thing going. We have an object class of Euclid and procedures that indicate that the skip is contained in a humanoid containment chamber with direct access to a shower. -1 may be collected as necessary. Oh no. Oh fuck. And is stored in Site 17's chemical laboratory. Consumption of -1 is currently permitted but discouraged. Oh no. Fuck me. 4726 is described as a tall, obese human male of Hispanic descent. The subject has been diagnosed with hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating, typically about the face and underarms. The skip secretes an opaque liquid substance, hereafter referred to as -1, at a rate of 1.4 liters per hour. Are you fucking kidding me? The chemical composition of -1 consists of caffeine, sugar, taurine, and other folic acids, and consumption of -1 influences the neurotransmitters for norepinephrine, dopamine, and acetylcholine in a similar process as non-anomalous caffeinated beverages. God damn you, Nico. I hate this. Consuming large quantities of Dash 1 over 2 liters within 24 hours has resulted in heart arrhythmia, hypertension, and in extreme cases, cardiac arrest. We have an addendum, God help us. On the 22nd of April 2019, the skip informed personnel it had become aware of a secondary property of Dash 1. This property manifests upon excessive consumption of specific foods. A list of known flavors and the requisite foods was provided by the skip and is listed below. So, I'm coming back to this, but we have two different foundation standard meals. One of them causes the production of limeade, the other causes the production of pink lemonade. 2 M&M king-size packets produces orangeade. A packet of Maruchan cheddar cheese flavor yakisoba noodles produces root beer. Foundation issued a neutral loaf will produce mango peach tea, and toenails will produce Mountain Dew Baja Blast. End article. Fuck me. Okay, so you can blink and miss it. The thing that takes this from like haha funny to oh no. And that is the line that the skip informed personnel it had become aware of a secondary property of the Dash 1 of the gamer milk. How would it become aware of this? If you answered the gamer is drinking its own gamer milk, you'd be goddamn right. Now, all that said, here's where we actually have something to discuss. Well, there's a little bit to discuss. Let's look at it on the whole. The piece isn't very long. The tone's all fine. There's nothing here jumping out at me at all. When science is used, it's used well. But there were quite a few people making mention of its main list status. They're saying, Nico, why isn't this a J? And it's a fair question. It is actually quite controversial in that sense. There's a lot of discussion to that effect in the comments. Now, here is my thoughts on this. Initially, I was going to be in the camp that, yes, this should be a J, because the pacing of this is far more in the vein of a Dash J than a main lister. There is no real rising or falling action. There's nothing in it that would make it have that main list feel. But then I started thinking about it, and I started really thinking about that line that the gamer is potentially we have a food item called toenails. We have a footnote for toenails. It says SCP-4726 was not provided with toenails during containment. That's the very last thing you read in this work. So in the sort of jump, sort of, not really a cliffhanger ending, but like there's a ton of rising action at the very end. And that, I think, is enough to make this a sensible inclusion in the main list instead of the J list. Now, this could be a J, and I wouldn't bat an eye. And to be honest, it might do better in ratings as a J than a main lister. But there's nothing saying you've got to do it one way or another. Ultimately, the court of public opinion will hold you accountable for your selection. And in this case, Nico's paid for it a little bit. There's a fair amount of downvoting on the basis that this should be a J. Would any of the people that voted for it positively downvote it if it were a J? I don't think so. I think it would be fine. So perhaps that's as good a barometer as any that this maybe should have been considered to occupy a J slot instead of a main list, but it is what it is. It's at plus 51 at the time of this recording, so it's doing just fine. But with a 51 rating and 47 comments, this is one of the more controversial ones that I have seen in quite some time. Initially, this was going to be a no vote from me on the basis of this should be a J. But I think it does enough right, and I think that the little inclusions, he wasn't provided toenails during containment. He wasn't provided M&Ms during containment. Like, oh, I see. So he's, oh God. On that basis of like adding just that little bit of squicky grossness to it, I think that's fine. I think it works as a main lister, and on that basis, I'm going to give it a +1. Okay, moving on. Bye-bye, Gamer Milkman. SCP-4807, Kolmogorov Complexity by Lazar Leosternik. Esteemed staff member, Lazar. Like him a lot. I initially opened this page, and I was going to send the author a nastygram saying, author, please be advised, the main site is not for posting works in progress. Then I took a look and noticed the rating was in the upper 30s, and took a closer look, and I realized what's going on is a format screw of sorts. So I'm going to read this top to bottom a little bit. We have number, 4807, C:(S). That's it. I'm going to assume this means class safe. SCP: special containment procedures. Storage S19, standard locker, meme obscured, no unauthorized access, not hazardous. Then we have D: info hazardous, only minimum info to convey idea when describing SCP. Text limited, minimum bits ASCII. Voice effect ambiguous, image info hazardous. Text written verbatim okay. Non-meme, limited to 4807, no effect others. Meme, 4807-1 carrier effect in all interaction, unknown epidemiology, 4807 interaction prerequisite. 4807-1 affected understand carriers clearly. This doc understood clearly under 4807 effect. So the interesting line here is text limited, minimum bits ASCII. So that would explain why the rest of this article has no formatting. ASCII is a very old standard. It only allows a certain amount of it's a very small character set, and there is no room in it for any sort of formatting. Bold, italic, underline, etc., etc. None of that stuff is available in ASCII, so that explains the screw to an extent. Then we have effect manifest, and this is a list of things that presumably may or may not trigger the effect. So touch, N. Sight, Y. Previous interaction, Y. Secondhand interaction, N. Related interaction, Y. Unrelated interaction, vicinity, line of sight, 4807, N. 4807-1 infection, Y. Alright, so in doing that, we kind of laid out the different means by which you could become affected by this skip. Limited formatting text description, ASCII. No EBCDIC, Unicode UTF. So EBCDIC is an old, well, I guess it's not old. I think it's actually still in use, but it's an IBM only thing. So in my little, headcanon skip verse as it pertains to computing, that would be kind of a silly request. But in any event, ASCII only. No alternative encodings like Unicode or UTF that supports a broader range of things. Then it says WYSIWYG. It actually says WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. White space okay. Other format no. In all caps, capital N, capital O. So then we have a description, 4807. Obelisk. elliptic hyperboloid, and we have a mathematical formula here, presumably laying out the exact shape of it, and I would confirm this if I passed geometry. I didn't pass geometry. Class B limestone, info hazardous, quote, minimalism is beautiful, unquote, 4807-1 via chisel. Then we have RL, presumably recovery log, from SOI 1442 NYC, abandoned 6 MOs months. Found with bodies, human experiment. Art anomalies. Printing error, 4807 recovered. Outside interference, area info hazardous, 14 deaths. Designated printing error. Docs recovered, attached. Hazardous effects noted, copies non-anomalous. Author's note, attached. And this is a set of quotes here. Understanding clearly requires exposure. Understanding requires detail. Detail irrelevant. Why detail? Minimal info efficient. Beautiful. We suffer detail. Why? Detail ugly. Waste. Confusion. Uncertainty. Now detail gone. Unimportant. Lacking exposure. Document unclear. Exposure reveals. Reveals truth. Beauty. Natural, minimal, sublime. Difficult. Elusive. Many struggle. Fail. Few succeed. I fail. Humiliated. Angry. Minimalism perfect. If not natural, forced. Peace is monument to my failure, my sins. I fail, minimalism succeeds. A sacrifice to the minimal. Look and understand. Then we have, last but not least, Art Critic Review attached. 2 of 5 would not recommend. Mrs. Point. Minimalism not reduced detail, rather multiple meaning. All detail still present with minimalist work, just beneath surface. Extrapolate, infer. All there, not gone, hidden. Good short article, not long article with all describing words removed, is self-contained. Rely on external knowledge, feeling, body of work. Good intention, but meme not necessary to share idea, just better art. Please don't cram down throat. Now stuck in this misconceived worldview until I find decent amnestic. End article. So this is cool. I like, for me, this is like, say more with less, taken to its logical extreme. This also immediately, and in my comment in it, made me think of a salient piece from, our favorite show, yours and mine.
So me think, why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
And yes, Kevin, few word do trick this time. What we've got here is sort of a misguided anartist. They've created a meme that forces you to sort of use this chopped, clipped language under, the pretense of it being minimalist, but it's not minimalist. It's just overly reductive. And there's a key difference here, and according to the critic that reviewed it and gave it a 2 out of 5, meaning there was some redeeming quality here, which I kind of enjoy. This is cool. This is a good format screw. It caught me. It actually got me, and it's a well done execution on a pretty unique premise. I haven't seen it pulled off in this way before, and it's well done. It's an easy +1. Moving on, SCP-4986, titled Just a Friend, written by Just Jake. We have an image of a postage stamp. It's red. It's got a picture of George Washington on it. As a matter of fact, this is a fairly famous postage stamp if you're into that sort of thing. This is an 1847 George Washington. Those go for upwards of $100,000 these days. It is captioned the stamp that appears on all instances of -1. We have an object class of neutralized. That's interesting. We have procedures that indicate that -3-B is to be contained in a 10 centimeter thick lead safe in hazmat area B. The safe is not to be opened unless full radiation suits are worn It is never to be opened unless greater radiation-resistant technology is created. So, something of some significant concern with regards to radiation. We have archived containment procedures as well that indicate that all -1 instances are to be opened by Site 28 Hazmat Unit A and are to be inspected and decontaminated if necessary. All instances of -1 are to be read by researcher Jordan Kyle and recorded separately for Foundation use. All instances of -2 are not to be opened until a thorough X-ray and chemical inspection is conducted. All -2 instances are to be opened with a Scranton Reality Anchor in possession. So we've got -1, -2, and -3 have all already been mentioned, and we are just leaving the procedures. So there's going to be quite a bit going on with this work. Now, that can be a little problematic in a work when you introduce all of the stuff that kind of needs to be tracked early. It does set the expectations. Okay, there's a lot going on. And unfortunately, like what goes on in the description, we don't actually describe -3 in the description. We do that quite a bit later in the piece. Something to be mindful of when you're laying out all of the, if you really need more than one dash instance going on, having a lot may mean you're trying to cram a little bit too much into the piece. It's a fair sign that that might be going on. But if you are going to do that and you're going to bury the lead with -3 in the procedures, you really do need to lay out all of the what is the -1, -2, -3, and this has a -3, -B. So make sure you are putting out there early in the description what everything is in clear, plain spoken, as plain spoken as we get on the wiki, that is. So the skip itself, 4986, is described as an unknown entity that goes by the name A Friend, and the entity is able to deliver letters and packages of varying sizes directly to researcher Jordan Kyle's office at Site 28 without detection. The letters and packages are all written to researcher Jordan, but the written titles are unique to each letter. That's a little bit kludgy, that sentence. The written titles are unique to each letter. Does that mean there's something on the envelope that it's got a synopsis? It doesn't necessarily maybe even need to be mentioned at this point. You could probably make the connection in the work. We will go on. All letters from the skip are designated -1, so -1 are letters. The instances will always be a white envelope with a red stamp depicting George Washington. Now, funny little quirks of the wiki. We say will always. That's a future imperative, that it will always be. That's not necessarily certain. In particular, there's two reasons that's not certain. One is that things could change, obviously. We can say they have always been a white envelope with a red stamp depicting George Washington, but more to the point, the object class is neutralized. We archived containment procedures. This should say -1 instances had always been, or were consistently, were always, something to that effect. So there's two different good reasons not to use that future tense, that it will always be a white envelope with a red stamp depicting George Washington. Past, experiences may let you know what's coming, but not always. The envelope will always, there it is again. So, I've said my piece. If we see it again, we'll keep going. It will always display the words "from a friend" on the front of the envelope. Handwriting present on all instances of -1 vary significantly, with no style appearing twice. The -1's contents range from a folded piece of paper to a singing birthday card. And if anyone besides researcher Jordan reads an instance of -1, another instance will appear within 24 hours. The writing on the front will read, "With concern from a friend." -1 instances with this writing will always possess unidentified poison contained within the envelope, and the language within the letter will be insulting towards researcher Jordan. This doesn't occur if the contents of the letter are recorded separately. And packages received from the skip are designated -2. So -1's letters, -2's packages. -2 will not appear in researcher Jordan's office. Rather, inside of the Site 28 employee parking garage, -2 instances will always have from a friend written on one side. So I think the reason that people will use that future tense, it will always do this, it will always be like this, it is because as the author, you know that it's not going to change, but you need to make a slight adjustment to your point of view. You can't be the omniscient being that knows exactly how it's always going to happen. You have to be the scientist, and a scientist will push a button, get zapped by, lightning, and say, I wonder if I push it again, if that'll happen again. So, just because it happened, 9 times in a row, yeah, you could say it's really likely doing it a 10th time will cause the same result, but there are no certainties, and we should never really treat them as such unless we're doing it specifically for the purposes of a format screw. So that is my soapbox on the future perfect, future imperative passages in descriptions and procedures. So we have letters and packages from an unidentified entity, all to a Foundation researcher that are the handwriting present changes, and they appear to be nice letters unless somebody else reads them. So it's quite a bit of explanation before we get into any real meat or anything to give any nuance or depth to the work. And we have a series of collapsibles, and these go through April 2003, mostly one in May and one in August. So from the beginning, we have a little letter from a friend. They note the rarity of the stamp used, an 1847 issue, George Washington, valued at around $85,000. The letter reads, Dear Mr. Jordan Kyle, I'm so glad I've been able to get in touch with you. I feel it's been so long since we've had a chat. Congrats on the promotion. I always thought of you as a big city, big shot instead of a country bumpkin. You really got that. I don't care how other people feel. I'm going to get this done persona. I'm so glad you're finally around people like yourself. Anyways, I'd really like to meet in person. Just send me a note of when you're available. You don't have to worry about my schedule. I've got plenty of time to myself as of recent. With much love, a friend. P.S. Did you see the stamp? I thought it would be a great addition to your collection. Huh. So there seems to be some prior history, at least on the side of the skip. We don't really have any indication whether this is something the researcher should have expected. It does a little further down the piece say no, they didn't really expect this letter at all. The next day they receive another letter basically saying, oh shit, sorry, I forgot to let you know how to reach me. So they include a return envelope. The entirety of the to on the return envelope says to your friend. And our researcher is instructed by site command to send a response, and we respond, hello, it would please me greatly to meet you this Saturday at Black Box Bar in Soho, New York, around 8:30 p.m. when I get off work. I'm anxious to meet you and very excited for our conversation. Best regards, Jordan G. Kyle. So we take the return envelope, stick a little tracker in it, place it in a mailbox, and it lost signal within 15 minutes due to a sharp, sudden movement. We send 2 field agents to recover the envelope, and they cannot find it. So whatever's going on, we don't know. We can't track it. We don't have any further correspondence until Saturday. So this was supposed to be at the bar. They go, and our researcher sits down at a table. We've got 2 agents entering the bar, sitting at another table. The researcher orders food and drink. The recovery team does the same. The researcher waits about 2.5 hours before leaving the bar. We don't see anything at all indicating any skip-like occurrences. And upon return to the Foundation site, we have a small box with the writing from a friend written in sloppy mixed case lettering found in the middle of the employee parking garage. The box included a small cake which appeared to be made out of chocolate and a small note, and the note reads, "Dear Jordan, very sorry I couldn't make it today. I got a bit lost. Ever since we last met, I've been sort of stagnant. Anyways, I brought you this cake. Maybe you can share it with your, quote, bar buddies. I hope it makes up for my absence." And it's signed a friend. So we take the cake to quarantine, and a hazmat unit inspects it, and we go from this to a little bit of dialogue. The dialogue is okay. Seen better, seen worse. We don't think there's anything initially out of the ordinary with it. There is a nice little line that says, this thing, you know what you're handling? Do you think you can handle it? Yeah, should be a piece of cake. So we, our hazmat team, cuts a slice, nothing at all happens. And we send the researcher back in saying, it's just a cake, and the researcher goes, sorry for the inconvenience. I'd like if you, and then says, what the hell is that? So the cake is now beginning to expand, and a rat claws its way out of the top of the cake and is followed by many more. So we turn on a Scranton reality anchor at this point, and this is interesting. It says throws it at the cake. The exact usage of the Scranton reality anchor has been sort of left to the imagination sometimes, but in other places, we've got these things established as being awfully large. Not something you could really throw as such, but that is a headcanon sort of thing, and that's not a knock in either direction. So in any event, this is a throwable SRA. Throw it at the cake, which flattens instantly. The rats that had already exited the cake began to eat it, devouring it in under 10 seconds. No rats were terminated because of the anchor's activation, but no more rats protruded from the cake in a total of 2 black boxes. Rats were counted as exiting the cake. So, the friend is not happy. There is no return envelope, so we could not make any further contact. So we have no further correspondence for another 4 days until Wednesday, and we have a new envelope slid underneath the door, and we checked security footage. We can't see anything. We have a note that says, "To Jordan K. the Rat, I am displeased you brought a recovery team with you for our meeting. I only want to speak with you. Your friends have not affected me in any way. I am not one to be recorded. I am not one to be filmed. I am trying to speak with you." So our researcher sends the letter to Site Command, and Command issues a covert task force to protect the researcher's home and family. The next day, we have another letter. It says, "With concern from a friend," with no stamp. This letter reads, "Jordan, our letters are meant to be private. You absolute concussion of a man. With concern from a friend." A return envelope was included, and before researcher Jordan could write a return letter, he collapsed. A medical team stationed nearby were able to help him into a stable state. The cause of his state was determined to be a relatively weak poison that destroyed itself within 20 seconds, and the researcher reported a slight distortion of vision that faded within the hour. The researcher sends a return letter. The contents were not recorded. That's a nice little addition there, and you really hope that something comes of it. The next day, there's an instance, a letter stapled to the front door of the researcher's office, and the letter reads, "Jordan Kyle the Tyrant, I acknowledge the fact you're a very busy man, that you feel that what you are doing is helpful. What you have done, however, is more akin to that of a state-funded psychopath. I have left you a present, something to give you a glimpse of what you've done to me." So that was at 9. At 9:30, our researcher sends a transcript of the note to Site Command. The researcher is notified of a large container found in the employee parking garage. It has "from a friend" written on the side with black paint, and upon the researcher's approach to the container, frantic screaming could be heard from within. The researcher runs the package into the same hazmat team, saying, "Get this thing open now." One of the agents says, whoa, hold on, what the fuck is it? The researcher says, "Does it matter? My fucking wife is in there." And we go, "Okay, how do you know that it's your wife?" The researcher says, "It sounds like her. She started screaming right as I went up to the box." So it says, "Okay, step away from the box." We have a Scranton reality anchor. One agent uses a crowbar to open the container. The container is empty. So at this point in time, guards stationed at the researcher's residency reported not being able to locate researcher Jordan's wife during their patrol. No sign of breaking and entering was discovered. That's sad. We have nothing further until Sunday. We have a new note. Left his office, left a note at the door. It says, "Researcher Jordan will not be available today. I have gone to meet with SCP-4986. It seems the only way I will be able to come to contact with 4986 is to have no backup or safeguards. I've brought a standard issue firearm and a tape recorder. I will hopefully be able to gather useful information about ways to possibly contain 4986. This thing has caused too much damage for me to sit idly by and wait for it to contain itself. I know that I'm putting myself at risk, but I feel that I would not be doing my job if I couldn't put myself at risk. Wish me luck, Researcher Jordan Kyle." I leave Site 28, approximately 1525, heading south. No further tracking was successful. Researcher Jordan was never recorded to return to either his residency or to Site 28. Researcher Jordan was pronounced missing after 3 days with no return. A search team was dispatched. We have nothing further for over 2 weeks until May 14th. We have a letter sent to Researcher Jordan's office emitting a small amount of radiation. Our same hazmat team was dispatched to inspect the letter, which was a blank white envelope with no writing or postage. The letter, this was designated -3-A. There's not a great reason to do that outside of it looks a little different from the -1s. In any event, it emitted a radiation of 15 millisieverts, and the letter, heavier than any other -1 instances recorded before. X-ray scan showed that the envelope contained a cassette tape and a note. We open the envelope and radiation levels jump up to 100 millisieverts, and the note reads as follows: "Dear whoever the hell still cares about the peasant known as Jordan G. Kyle, your friend disappoints me. He's been with your foundation, 10 years, and he thinks he can stop me with a handgun? Pathetic. Don't expect anything more from me. I don't have the respect to pay for the postage. Have fun with my gift. It's the only thing your friend could record. Signed, a friend." The cassette tape included was both slightly burned and warped. Once repaired to the best extent, the tape could be played on a standard cassette player. The cassette seems to be pure static, with faint screaming in the background. At around 2 minutes and 37 seconds, a harsh tone is heard before the tape is cut off. Researcher Jordan is presumed dead, and all search teams are called off. And that's the end of things until August 3rd, 2003, about 2.5 months later. We have to send the same hazmat team to Researcher Jordan Kyle's office after the researcher currently stationed in it died of radiation poisoning. The office is searched, and a thick envelope is discovered in the bottom drawer of the desk, emitting radiation levels over 10,000 millisieverts. This is enough to induce internal bleeding and death in a very short amount of time. The envelope, this is designated -3-B, had the message "To my friends" written on the front. It was taken to a quarantine area and inspected. Due to the high radiation, no precise data could be discovered about it. Both the hazmat agents refused to open it, saying, "These suits can barely save us from this radiation. There's no way they can help us once we open this thing. Make the D-Class do it." It was deemed too unsafe to open at Site 28, transferred off-site into a 10 centimeter thick lead safe. No further testing permitted. No further contact with the skip's been made. It is deemed neutralized as of January 10th, 2004. End article. So I want to mention, this is a first-timer piece. This author, this is their first successful entry to the wiki, so congratulations there. The issues I have with the work are mostly minor, that I've already kind of discussed fairly thoroughly. Now, there's an issue of pacing here. We have a nice set of rising action, falling action, and a rise at the end. But as we get towards the very end, I don't quite care for the ending. I think there's something that could be done better here. I'm not immediately sure what it is. I think with a little bit of time, the work could be improved right at the end. everything else in this is really good. I like that, despite having all of these letters, we are not one bit closer to understanding who's on the other side of this. We don't know a damn thing about them, but they know a whole hell of a lot about us. This is good. We've seen that trope before. We've seen a good amount of this done before. But this is done in a nice, sort of fresh presentation of those those things, the things we've commonly seen before. They're combined in a little bit of a new way, and this is good. It's not, not the best thing I've ever seen. It has some issues, but at the same time, this is good. I'm fine with it being on the wiki. This is a +1 from me, but I think it right now is good with the potential to be really good. Moving on. SCP-4281, Stalled Conversation, written by T. Rutherford. We have an image of a fairly fancy bathroom, like you might see at an upscale shopping mall or something of the sort. Tile floors, tiles running about 8 feet up the wall, little wide basin that looks like it could accommodate, probably 3 people, little hand soaps, mirrors, the drill. We have a white arrow on it as well that's pointing at one of the stalls, and the caption reads SCP-4281. -1's location is marked with a white arrow. We have an object class of safe and procedures that indicate the entrance to 4281 should remain locked and marked with an out-of-service sign. Spooky bathroom. 2 security personnel disguised as casino security, so it's casino, are to be posted outside 4281 at all times. Unauthorized individuals found trespassing inside 4281 are to be questioned, then receive Class A amnestics. Communication with -1 is forbidden outside of approved testing. So the skip is described as a lavatory stall located inside the first floor men's room of the Holy Roller Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. And -1 is a sapient entity residing inside this stall. Visual confirmation of -1 is only possible via the gap under the stall's walls or door. As such, -1 has only ever been observed as the calves of a white male wearing white-red striped socks and blue-white 1995 Adidas Orion running sneakers. Okay. So remote viewing and autonomous drone technology fail within a 2 square meter area of the skip. Thermal imaging has shown the stall to be empty. Attempting to enter the stall by force will result in -1 shouting occupied. And we'll take a step back here, because this also says attempting to enter 4281 by force will always result in -1 shouting occupied in a mild Southwest American accent. So there's that will always again. Attempts to view -1 over or under the stall walls will result in a similar vocalization, such as, "Hey, a little privacy here, buddy." Anyone hearing these exclamations will be overwhelmed with a feeling of intense embarrassment, and test subjects wearing noise-canceling headphones or possessing hearing impairment are still subject to this effect. It actually says are still purview to this effect, which I don't know what word should be used, but that one is not it. Subject to this effect would probably be just fine. When an individual enters a stall adjacent to 4281, within 10 or 15 seconds, -1 will begin conversing with them. He's described as upbeat and will give lengthy personal anecdotes, give opinions on current affairs, and offer unsolicited advice. -1 will continue speaking regardless of response or lack thereof, often bridging natural pauses in discussion with phrases such as, "That's right, huh? Of course it is." Or, "Another thing about that." Or, "Heck, you know what that reminds me of?" So, they will most often discuss mundane topics, but -1 has on rare occasions demonstrated an insight into various anomalous subjects, including thaumatology and hemogenic evocation. Additionally, -1 possesses a great deal of personal and classified info on the Foundation and several GOIs. Attempts at guiding the conversation towards these subjects has proven highly ineffective, as -1 seems unwilling or incapable of deviating from its chosen discussions. As such, the scope of its knowledge or how it's acquired is currently unknown. We could leave it there, and this would be a great piece already, but we have 3 test logs, and they are more or less interview logs with this -1. So the dialogue here, the conversation is outstanding. The -1 is really well fleshed out here. I really enjoy this dialogue, but there's an awful lot of it, so I'm going to sort of cut in here a few paragraphs in, because this guy talks and talks and talks and talks and talks some more and talks some more, and eventually says, years after he was working on it, honestly, I think the explosion knocked some sense into him, because the next dang day he cracked the data expunged principle. You know, when you combine data expunged with the closed third circle, just like the Hemet Netcher did back in old Nubia. Ta-da, new dog. He was just like the old one, except the eyes were all... And Dr. Clark goes, hold on, what? Hold on. Comms, did you get that? Yes, I'm going to continue the test. SCP-4281-1, can you repeat that? Are you saying you're familiar with both data expunged and Heka blood rituals? And -1 says, oh, I'm hecka sure I am. Just a little River Valley joke for you. Of course, you probably know those rituals are a messy business. Ain't worth bothering with, if you ask me. That their dog ended up with an awful temper, eating all the meat out of the fridge, putting claw marks in the car door. Real active on walks, though. Kept old Carter in shape, I guess. But... And it keeps going. Keeps going. They don't get anything else from him. They went for another 3 hours, and the test was officially terminated at 5:56 a.m., roughly an hour after -1 began discussing his favorite types of bean salad. So we try again. We have a second log. This starts at 2:13 a.m., and we redact 36 minutes of relevant discussion before we get to what was actually even more irrelevant discussion. And our researcher says, -1, once again, we'd like to discuss what you know about the Serpent's Hand. You previously mentioned individuals who have directly dealt with the Black Queen. Please elaborate. -1 does not hear him. He may as well have not bothered to get a word in edgewise. And the researcher goes, what do you want? I'm asking you directly. We've offered you food, entertainment, and even a free exchange of information. Do you want us to resume foot traffic into the restroom? Do you want regular attendance? Are you somehow trapped inside that stall? We have a great deal of resources at our disposal, but we need you to tell us what you want. This actually works. -1 says, aw, shucks, son, I'm just fine. You SPC folks have enough on your plate without worrying about old me. It's a sign of a true American cowboy to be self-sufficient, you know. Of course, kids these days with their phones, everyone has to be connected all the dang time. And our researcher goes, is there anything I can say to make you? It cuts him off. Their chat snaps and such. Why even bother taking pictures of every damn thing? You know, I remember when you had to wait to get the photos developed. You'd be paying out of pocket. The hours waiting made every picture special, you know, ain't that? And we redact another hour and 12 minutes of relevant discussion. So we have another log. This is our last log. And this is a third researcher. And we this initially gets off on the wrong foot, but we've instructed this researcher to aggressively head off -1 to prevent a rant while still appearing friendly. So Williams, our researcher, says, yeah, we all know a guy like that. We had lots of him back east, so where are you from? And -1 says, well, wherever the wind takes me, you know how it is. Well, no, you don't. You never even left Warrenton before all this. I guess that's east of something, all things relative, so I won't call you a liar. So he knows this guy. Knows, you know, more about him than he would have let on. So the William says, you got me. You got my accent, huh? I traveled west to get here. So -1 says, oh, not bad. Never lie. A half-truth is much easier to swallow. Agent Porter would be proud. There's a little bit of silence. The doctor running the test tells him via earpiece to continue. And researcher says, all right, since you know who I work for, I'll stop with the pretense. Honestly, though, I'm just here to chat. I want to get to know you. My name actually is Cam. And -1 says, you hate being called Cam. Always have. Creepy Cam. What is that? What? -1 goes, that's what they used to call you, right? Creepy Cam. Not very creative. Then again, Matt never was the thinking type. Big, though. Big, mean, held back 2 years. Daddy's always given him the belt. He took that out on you, the little bastard, him and his gang. And Reacher says, yeah, well, I'm sure you've got plenty of stories. And gets cut off again. Creepy Cam always reading those big old books, dressing in black, drawing strange little doodles in his notebook. Smart as a whip, didn't even need to try. Matt resented that, you know. The guidance counselor was right. He was jealous. Of course, knowing that didn't stop him from shoving you in a trash can. That wasn't so bad, though. Now mouthing off about your ma, that was the worst. Even Matt regrets that. He didn't know, you know. He didn't know she'd gotten sick. He feels bad about crossing that line even today. He apologizes to you in his sleep, then wakes up with wet eyes. Our researcher says, listen, could we talk about something else? I don't think -1 slaps the wall 3 times. Says, "Aw, come on, buck up. It got better, right? Matt's off pumping gas these days, and look at you, big fancy science man in a secret lab. Ooh-wee, if those kids could see you now." And the doctor running the test calls to terminate, given the current topic. The researcher stands and moves to open the door. -1 says, "Hey, whoa there, I didn't mean to offend. I thought we were getting to know each other." Researcher exits the stall. -1's heard shouting, "Hey, come on, Cameron, it's all in the past, you know. You're a popular guy now. Lots of creepy friends, right?" And researcher moves to exit the room, and -1 says, "Shame what's happening to Lawrence, though." The researcher stops, hand on the door, turns and re-enters the stall. The doctor reiterates the test has ended. -1 says, "Not surprising, you know. He never was quite as clever as you. Kind, though, real kind. Sat with you on that first day, introduced you to everyone, even taught you how to kick the vending machine just right for a free soda. Good man. Good man. Doesn't deserve what's happening to him, no sir." Williams goes, "What do you mean happening? Lawrence, he's dead." The doctor tells Williams not to divulge any information. The researcher disconnects his earpiece and microphone, dropping them to the stall floor. -1 says, "Dead? Not by half. Real kick in the pants, that. Of course, if I walked into a big angry cave full of screaming rocks, I'd sure..." Williams says, "Wait, please, what do you mean?" -1 says, "Think twice about not bringing a map. Heck, I nearly got lost one time in the big old Kmart off the I-29, you know, back the day before they shut down. Funny story there. See, the manager that their Kmart had..." Williams is trying to get a word in edgewise. "Please, stop talking for 1 second. Please, is Lawrence alive? How can I find him?" Security enter the washroom at this point, and Williams is advised to leave the stall. -1 just keeps talking. 12 horses. Can you believe it? The poor kid on cash was there with a mop until past midnight just trying to... Wait, guys, just listen. He knows something. Please, give me another 5 minutes. And he's escorted out of the washroom. And -1 says, "So I said to him..." Well, all right then. "Have a good night, fellas. Come back any time." No audio for 4 minutes. 1:49. The microphone, still hot, still running. Picks up several labored breaths and a long, deep sigh. -1's heard speaking quietly. "God dang it. Things were just going so well. What'd I do wrong? People like talking about themselves, right? I should have just told him the trucker story. Everyone loves that story. Maybe I should have mentioned... Nah, he would have found that boring. Maybe I could have... No, that's stupid. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it. Why am I like this?" End article. Great article. Awesome article. This was the most intriguing thing out of the one so far. This, like I said, just the base premise alone. This guy that, you know, all you can see is his legs in a bathroom stall, and it makes you feel such intense embarrassment that you can't actually get a look at him, but knows far more than he should, is a great premise. But these logs are awesome. They push this from good to great. Outside of my one little knock, the will always stuff, that's easy. That's an easy fix. That's a that's grammar. That's spelling, punctuation, and grammar. So that's the lightest of knocks against this work. This is a very strong +1. I love this piece. Now, before we get into skip number 5, want to mention not one, but 2 long boys of the week. First off, SCP-4390, A Bad Maze by DJ Cactus. So, this is the longest piece of the week. It involves a secret entrance in the fridge of an Italian restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, and it involves some internal strife within the Wondertainment family and the line of succession for the title of Dr. Wondertainment. And it involves a strike team going into a labyrinth built by a disgruntled ex-Wondertainment trying to create a spin-off. And the dialogue in this is fantastic. Cactus consistently writes some of the very best dialogue on the site, particularly when he's got free reign to add humor. And perhaps it's because he and I are, kind of like-minded as far as the stuff that we find funny, and the dialogue that we, really find funny as well. It is very long, but it is very entertaining. I went into this not like, I was initially a little put off because I could tell we kind of had this vehicle of we're crafting a world very carefully. Everything looks just so, and it's all a very obvious build up to a narrative that's going to be delivered within these logs. But by the end of it, it's so goddamn well written that it doesn't even count against it. It's not a knock against it. It's a wonderful work, and it's got characters in this short story format, characters that have depth and memorability and all of these things that will stick with you. This is something I'm going to think about for a while. Really entertaining piece, but very, very long. Long boy of the week. 4390, A Bad Maze by DJ Cactus. My second long boy of the week, SCP-4845, titled I Am the Beast I Worship by Kindly Turtle Clem. Now, they previously went by Kindly Turtle Rock, and I've covered several of their pieces on previous cafe shows. A quick aside, the episode reference, I don't know if I mentioned last week, I don't recall, but if you go to scp.cafe or on the new subreddit, r/scp-cafe, there's a link on both at the top to episode reference, and you can see every single skip I have ever covered in a recap show or a deep dive, along with their authors and a link to the work. So 4845, I Am the Beast I Worship. This is set in the 1930s. It is primarily diary entries from a worker for the IJAMEA, which is a Japanese GOI set during World War II that sort of specializes in paranormal weaponry. In this case, it has to do with bioweaponry and some really terrible and beautiful body horror going on, these terrible bioweapons, and all of this very interesting discussion on Zen and East Asian concepts I'm not terribly familiar with. It's one of the reasons I didn't want to cover this one as part of the actual recap, because it deals in subject matter I'm not comfortable trying to critique or pass any sort of a judgment on. But the prose is beautiful. It is some of the most beautiful prose I've seen in a long time, and I mentioned as such in the comments on it. I am not prepared to say that I'm smart enough to know entirely what's going on in this work. There's a lot going on, and both in the skip as it was defined and the diary entries that build this story about a man and his colleague who may or may not actually exist. Tremendous work, really powerful. One of these where I can tell when I am not getting the full impact of a work because I'm just not getting it. Something isn't clicking that would, you'd have that oh shit factor. So I kind of had that going on with this. And at some point when you're making a work like this, you have to let it go. As far as some people, you're not going to connect with all of the people all of the time and still be faithful to the message you want to put out there. So I'm okay with not getting it all the time. I don't have to get it all the time. I think it's more important if you've got something that you really want to say and that you want to get out there, it's important to be true to yourself and get that message out. And honestly, I say do that and damn the votes. This is really pretty, really beautiful work, and really compelling imagery. Highly encourage you to read it. SCP-4845, I Am the Beast I Worship. Now, our last skip to get the full recap treatment, SCP-4375, titled Two Forgetful Men, written by Dr. Camel. Now, when you look at this piece, you have not a whole lot to look at. You have a box front and center that says, by order of the Overseer Council and the Ethics Committee, the following file contains information regarding the 4375-1 Field Use Project and is Level 4 classified. Unauthorized access may be cause for amnesticization or termination. And we have a collapsible that says enter valid decryption key. You click it, and there's the piece. It's quite long, actually. So this is using the black highlighter style sheet. We've got a wide, short image of, looks like a woodland like you might find in sort of the heartland of the United States. The caption reads, part of SCP-4375, following its neutralization, image was taken by Dr. Willow and Private West, but Private West is struck through, and now it reads SCP-4375-1. So we have an object class of Thaumiel and an item number, I don't normally call these out, an item number of SCP-4375-1. So before we have containment procedures, we have a file update from 3/21/2014. That the file for 4375 can be found further down the page. This has been done due to the neutralization of 4375 and the creation of -1. And we have a footnote here that says see Addendum 1. We have procedures that indicate that -1 is currently kept in the main containment area of the second building of the Specialized Containment and Research Site 4375-01. It is to be wearing a straitjacket and a bandage covering its eyes. It's to be strapped to its hospital bed, where it is to be fed via IV drip and connected to an assigned generator via the YBOD-01 device. And we have a footnote here that says see Addendum 5 in order to perpetuate containment. This device is to be in containment mode by default. Changing the active mode of the device requires majority approval from the O5 Council. This site has been outfitted with 68 Scranton reality anchors in order to preserve -1's containment. 8 of them are located in and around the main containment unit, which is where -1 is contained. All persons are recommended to maintain a distance of 10 meters, even when the anomaly is in containment. If the YBOD device fails, malfunctions, or loses power, or any other scenario possibly resulting in a containment breach, the current site administrator is to initiate a full site evacuation. And due to the YBOD device, -1 is currently fully controlled by the Foundation. And again, we have a footnote that says see Addendum 5. So we have a few addendums, apparently, if we're going to be consulting the fifth one of them. There's a passage here that could probably be removed, at least part of it. It indicates that the YBOD-1 device will automatically reboot itself once it has been disconnected from a power supply, entering a battery-powered state. Now, you can do this in a different way. Typically, you want to do something like uninterruptible power, and what this basically means is your device is battery-powered at all times, and disconnecting mains power from it will result in it immediately, simply using the battery rather than having the mains power trickle charge the battery. That's the basis for all of the uninterruptible power supplies you see on servers and whatnot. So there's no reason for the device to need to automatically reboot itself. So, if it needs to for the purpose of the story, you don't necessarily have to connect it to being disconnected from power. Because reboot for me means there's a period where the device is unfunctional, and the Foundation is too damn smart to not use a solved problem like uninterruptible power on something of this significant magnitude. Anyway, and this is kind of what it says, that this YBOD device, while it's being rebooted, this results in Dash 1 being able to move and use its abilities freely for some time before the device is re-enabled automatically. And if it's been destroyed or damaged, this device, resulting in the Dash 1 being able to use its anomalous abilities or move freely for an indefinite amount of time, it may be neutralized via sniper fire or ballistic missiles. So, yeah, I mean, this is a problem that is already a solved problem. There's no reason to ever have this thing need to reboot, particularly given the stakes here. So if you remove the bit about rebooting itself and it's got this window where it can operate, you can basically strike all of that, and basically you can keep the core punch of it, saying if the device fails, and the Dash 1 can move or use its abilities freely, you can take it out with sniper fire or ballistic missiles. And I think you get the same point without making IT types roll their eyes going, no, that's not really what you would need to do for uninterruptible power. Additionally, Level 3 researcher Dr. Willow is not under any circumstances to come in contact with Dash 1, any persons involved in its containment, or any persons involved in the Dash 1 field use project. We have another footnote that says, see Addendum 3. So we've got 3 different addenda to take a look at, and we're not even through the procedures yet. The description indicates that Dash 1's a 24-year-old male African-American, formerly known as Private Aaron West, a former armed guard working for the SCP Foundation. Dash 1 is since Event 04, a Class 3 reality bender with a Hume level of 72/147. This is a link to a tale that explains the Hume levels. But its reality bending effects are not noticeable when the anomaly is in containment due to the effects of the YBOD device, which attaches to the larynx at the back of the neck of the subject and is a permanent cybernetic implant that may cause permanent both physical and psychological damage. Due to the effects of the YBOD device, Dash 1 has forgotten all events that occurred prior to its containment, is suffering from severe mental disorders such as schizophrenia and MDD. I don't know what MDD is. I was going to say multiple personalities, but personalities doesn't start with a D. Quick Googling informs you that it is major depressive disorder. The Dash 1 is also blind due to blood poisoning caused by the device. So blind, no memory, schizophrenic, depressed. This is the results of our device. The device, when in containment mode, affects the Dash 1 and prevents it from forming any advanced thoughts and executing any advanced movements. This results in Dash 1 not being able to use its anomalous abilities in any way that could be harmful to Foundation workers by constantly stimulating various areas of its brain and nervous system simultaneously, preventing it from executing any potentially harmful actions. This passage feels a little redundant. We basically just said the same thing twice. I would axe one line or the other. Due to the state of Dash 1 and its effect... Oh, I see. Due to the mental state of Dash 1 and its effect on its anomalous properties, it may manipulate its surroundings in completely unpredictable and often otherwise illogical or impossible ways if the YBOD device becomes inactive. Despite this, Dash 1's not currently able to attempt to hurt any Foundation member due to its severely damaged mental state and physical damage to its brain and nervous system, although it may still do this unknowingly. So these 2 paragraphs, all in all, could be reduced quite significantly, and I think still get the same result with a little bit less time to get there. We get it. They are fairly damaged by the installation and use of this device. It is keeping them from thinking or moving, and they are thus under our direct control, which, given that they're a Class 3 reality bender, is a good place to be. So we go into the first of the mini addenda here. The addenda make up probably 70% of this article by length, so I'm going to go through it, kind of summarize them for you. Addendum 1 is the event -04. So this describes what 4375 itself is or was. It was a glade in northern Indiana. Prior to the event, the skip was a safe class SCP. It had the ability for persons standing in it to remember forgotten memories, even if removed using amnestics. The skip also had a Hume level somewhat higher than the standard level of its surroundings, but didn't alter them in any significant way. The event itself was a bombing by the GOC. This neutralized the skip and sent a swarm of unidentified, presumably anomalous, glowing spores into the air. One armed guard, one Aaron West, was targeted by these and was struck by a large swarm of them. The spores seemingly had no anomalous effects on him, and no other guards were exposed to them. The GOC denied involvement. There's a passage here at the end that could probably be snipped. It says, due to this event, it is now believed that the Global Occult Coalition are going to be more aggressive in the near future, although this is unconfirmed. This is speculation that doesn't really have any place in the work, and it doesn't advance the story in any way. I would remove it. -2 is the former file. There is not a whole lot about it worth mentioning, only in the discovery of it, that the skip was discovered by Dr. Adam Willow and Private Aaron West, who lived in the area at the time of discovery. They found the anomaly together and reported it to the Foundation. Dr. Willow and Private West have both been very helpful in providing info regarding the nature of the skip due to their knowledge of the surrounding area and the fact that they discovered the anomaly. There's a few instances in here where the technical writing, the tone, is not quite up to scratch. They're solvable problems, but with enough of them, they're hard to overlook. Addendum 3, which is one of the ones that was called out, is a recovery log, and this is a recovery log of an unidentified anomaly. Undocumented anomaly is the term they're using. So we don't fully know what we're getting ourselves into with this recovery. This involves MTF Pi 1 city slickers, and we have actually a fairly short log. Pi 1 breaches an apartment building looking for this anomalous human, and also notes that Dr. Willow should be there as well. The UA is our number one priority. They breach, they detain the anomalous human who does not resist, gets zip ties behind the back, and Willow is attempting to escape. Pi 1-1 yells at them, stop running or you will be terminated. One of the agents runs downstairs. Dr. Willow has stopped, puts the researcher's hands behind his back, applying zip ties. Shortly after, the apartment building appears to be pulled into itself, crushing all Pi 1 members except for Agent 7 before expanding to its previous size with no visible damage to the building. Our remaining MTF agent starts opening fire towards the balcony of the building as the anomalous human exits by climbing down from the balcony. The bullets don't do shit. The human walks towards our Pi 1 agent. As Pi 1 is firing at it, all weapons belonging to the Pi 1 agent are disintegrated. Pi 1-7 is lifted off the ground, turned 180 degrees vertically, and forcefully shoved into the ground, killing them. The second recovery attempt was much shorter. The humanoid was informed that if it used its anomalous properties on the Pi 1 members at location, Dr. Willow would be terminated. This recovery was successful. And that's it. We go to Addendum 4. This is an interview with researcher Willow. We have a Dr. Red leading the interview to Dr. Willow, where Dr. Willow acknowledges that -1, formerly Private West, is or was their boyfriend. He's a reality bender. We never checked his Humes. All I know is he's strong, really strong, could be a class 2 or 3. And Red says, okay, we've had an idea since the creation of -1. We have an ongoing project centered around what you would call mind control, basically allowing us to have our very own reality bender, one that we have full control over. And Willow says, please don't, please. I don't know what I would do if you did that to him. Red says, okay, you have a choice, Adam. Get amnesticized to forget all details about -1 and continue working for us, or be terminated. We expect you to comply. Dr. Willow is crying and says, is that really a choice? I don't have a choice in this. None at all. The Foundation isn't supposed to work like this. This isn't right. They rise up from their seat before being held down by a guard and detained. End log. Closing statement. The field use project was continued and Dr. Willow was amnesticized. Whew. So this log out of nowhere is like a punch to the gut. This is a really dark, really nasty foundation, and I like this sparingly. I like, the thought that there are some really loose cannon fucking doctors that, maybe aren't yet on the ethics committee radar, but have no problem, delivering ultimatums to, further a cause, particularly when it is something to the effect of we've got a reality bender that we can command. So this was a really good log. I really liked it. Not lastly, this is the last one that was called out. This is Addendum 5. This is the Field Use Project Proposal. The leading statement is that the aim of this project is to utilize -1 for field use through experimental technology that's currently in development. This would let the Foundation have full control over the Class 3 reality bender, which would aid in the containment of other anomalies. Additionally, -1 could be used to stabilize or repair altered reality in order to prevent civilian knowledge of the Foundation and prevent people being hurt by the effects of other anomalies. And we have our team lead and assistant leads, and we request resources, all documented research from Dr. Robert Scranton, all documented research from Dr. Jonathan Oscar, all documented information regarding redacted, all documented information regarding the Scranton Reality Anchor, and all related research, materials necessary to construct a specialized containment and testing facility fit for containing and researching reality-bending anomalies, and no fewer than 25 D-class. So we eventually construct miniature Scranton Reality Anchors used to prevent the device used from succumbing to the effects of -1. So this this device that's commanding our -1 has an SRA on board. That kind of explains how it's doing what it's doing. We've also utilized research from Dr. Oscar to construct a device that can be used to manipulate brain activity and bodily movements based on a command-based system. This is combined with a miniature SRA, and we have this research site disguised as a military base in this previous location of the skip itself in northern Indiana, and we basically go from here to Addendum 6. This is Project Info. This addendum is level 4 classified, and it explains the field use project, the difficulty of installing the YBOD device, the difficulty of working with an anomaly with these reality bending properties. The Overseer Council, however, as well as the involved researchers and ethics committee members agree the project has now given the desired results. We talk about the YBOD-01 device. We describe it again. It attaches to the larynx, blah, blah, blah. When the skip is in containment, the device is to have its active mode set to containment mode. This prevents -1 from moving, forming thoughts, and using its anomalous abilities. When not in containment, the active mode of the device may be set to command mode, and here it can receive commands from a remote terminal controlling its movements and anomalous properties. The active mode can be changed using a switch on the device. The device is not to be disabled at any time. Disabling it may result in the complete destruction or reconstruction of the area surrounding -1. We have a note from the Ethics Committee. We completely understand your reservations about utilizing -1 for field use, especially if you knew it as Aaron West prior to it receiving SCP classification. We can assure you the existence of -1 and the -1 field use project has greatly aided the Foundation in the containment and neutralization of multiple other anomalies as we strive to keep normalcy while staying under the civilian radar. And about Dr. Willow, he's not aware and never will be aware of this, and is therefore not harmed by it. You should not feel sorry for him, just like you should not feel sorry for -1. For the greater good, the Ethics Committee. We have even more addenda. We have field operations that show that using -1 is a raging success in all use cases. But as we go through these operations, we have more and more redactions. We have a note here. This is the 9th operation, This involved another anomalous humanoid. Dash 1 was used to neutralize this humanoid, who was a Class 3 reality bender, after the anomaly had not cooperated with the Foundation during its attempted containment. Now, one little nitpick here. This says Class 3, and it's using the number 3. Previously in the work, we have Class 3 using the Roman numerals for 3. Use one or the other. But the result of this operation is entirely redacted. We have Operation 11. The subject is very vague. Foundation enemies. The description is that Dash 1 was used to terminate traitorous Foundation members and implanted Chaos Insurgency members. The results are entirely redacted. The 15th operation is entirely redacted. No subject, no description, no nothing. Lastly, Addendum 8, recovered documentation. And this was a notebook from Dr. Willow, basically a diary of sorts. It describes their initial finding of the skip, the glade that makes you remember everything. And basically they described it as, had a sharp headache and then tons of photographic memories, all of my life from my birth and until now. But Aaron got scared and backed away, so he didn't get affected. We returned home. I retrieved this notebook for documentation. Probably safe, probably a level 2 clearance. Promote me. Hume reading might be somewhat higher than the surroundings. The air feels heavier. Gives you all your memories back. You might be able to use this to bring back redacted memories, but we don't know. How do amnestics even work, man? So then we have a draft of the skip, which is kind of cool. One thing worth noting here is the discovery section of it. It says SCP ? Was discovered by Dr. Willow and Private West, and in quotes but struck through it. I'm sorry, in parentheses but struck through. It says who? We have not much else of note in this until the very end, and it says information. The page transcribed below, as well as a used amnestics needle, a pile of ash, and a cigarette end, were retrieved from the location of Dr. Willow following his amnesticization. It reads, I'm burning up the last photo of us. I don't normally smoke, but I figured that this could be the first time. Won't remember it anyway. I'm so sorry that it had to end like this. I love you, Aaron. I always will. End log. End article. So, a lot to unpack at the very end. They were already amnestized, but were able to still recall. And further up in this last log, the Dr. Willow received all of the memories, and Private West didn't. So, the party line, what we were informed in the beginning, is not quite reliable. It's not quite accurate. We thought nobody else was affected. Private West received all of the spores, but it looks like Dr. Willow received the actual effects of all of their memories coming back to them. So really interesting little twist at the end. Now, what's interesting to me, this work is at +3. This is actually not had a lot of eyes on it either way. The response to it has been more negative than positive for people that have bothered to explain their votes. I think this is good. I think, don't get me wrong, there are some issues. There are occasional flashes of real brilliance, though. The 4th addendum with the ethics committee is, better than I think they realized at the time. I really like the piece. It could use a little bit of trimming. It could use actually a fair bit of trimming to, I think, really shine. I think brevity would serve to really help this piece. But without it, what do we have? We have this YBOD device that I think is a little over-explained. We got it in the beginning. We probably don't need as much discussion about it as we do. You can emphasize that this thing is uncomfortable and has, caused some really unfortunate side effects. And I think that can work really well for evoking sympathy in this -1. You can look back to 2 weeks ago to 49.79 to see that done really, really well. But there's a few things in here that could benefit from taking an axe to it. So I get why the thing is in a bit of a low rating, but I encourage you to take a look at it, give it a read, because I did skim a few things in the addenda, and decide for yourself. For me, I'm comfortable giving this a +1. I want to see. I think it's good. It's okay. It has the potential to be good with a little work and to be great with perhaps a more experienced co-author or a set of really experienced eyes guiding through the revision process for this. Now, I have discussed 7 of the 9 skips that were posted this week, and I couldn't leave it there. The last 2 were both also good. They weren't they had 2 different reasons for not getting included, and I'm going to talk about both of them. First off, SCP-4284, titled Walker Towers by Gaps Mav. This is a piece about creatures that look like elevated water towers, but are able to move around and even hunt. They've got roughly the intelligence of a domesticated horse. One of them in particular seems to be really, really intelligent and is the main driver of the second half of the story, where it has become far too smart for its own good, has actually scheduled for termination. One of the doctors in charge of it said no, sort of absconded with it, and the water tower looking thing ate this doctor and more or less consumed its thoughts and its ability for reasoning, and used this to target and sort of outmaneuver a mobile task force. It's a cool story, it's a cool premise, but ultimately I didn't really feel anything either way about it. And in relation to the other works that I covered this week, it was a little bit below the rest of them. Still good, but not. It didn't hook me in the way that I really wanted to bring it up during the recap segment. Now, lastly, SCP-4302, titled Prior Predator by Lord Stonefish. I had a simpler reason for not including this one. I'm too dumb to understand it. There's a lot going on in this piece, and I'm not going to try to give my very dumb person understanding of it because it's wrong and bad. I encourage you to read it, and if you get it, explain to me what the fuck's going on in it. I would greatly appreciate that, and you can get a hold of me in any number of ways. So it is, I can tell there's a lot going on that I like, even with what I can get, but a lot more that I don't think I am getting. And what's funny is in the comments, Lord Stonefish spoiled some of it, but not enough. He got some of it, and I'm like, okay, keep going. So that was why I didn't really cover it. I don't feel it does anybody any favors if I can't at least nominally explain what the hell's going on in the piece. There is a spoiler of sorts in the comments if you give it a read and decide, like me, okay, I have no idea what's going on, why we're finding, camera lenses dating back to the Cretaceous period in the fossil record and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. But on the same note, I wanted to talk about all of them this week. I can tell quality when I see it. Like I said, I don't have to understand all of it to know when something is good to the right audience. I'm not always the right audience, and that's fine. I have never professed to be the smartest guy on the site, and I've never professed to understand everything that I read, and that's okay. And I'm Still impressed with the piece with as much as I got out of it. So that's it. 9 skips. 9 really good skips this week. That's the Week 18 show. Week 19, right now, we're on schedule for May 10th. I had plans for doing things on Saturdays for a little bit, but God, the weather's just too nice right now to make stupid plans that involve being inside. So for the time being, not really, no real changes on the radar. Like I said, next week's show will have a slightly smaller selection pool. It will only cover things from today, from Friday to Wednesday, and after that, it'll be from Thursday to Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show and think the show's worth a buck, please, I'd appreciate it. Check it out, patreon.com/scpcafe or scp.cafe, and hit Patreon at the top, where you find all of the other links to the chat and the store and the episode reference. I will see you guys next week for Week 19. Until then, keep reading, keep writing. I'll see you on the other side.